Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of A Happy Moment. My name is Dan. Glad to have you with me today. And today I have a very special guest with me to talk about some horror movies. He is Ali Khamseh. Ali, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for the correct pronunciation of my name.
I want to make sure I got it right for you. Names are important. Well, Ali, you yourself are a bit of a filmmaker. Could you give us a little bit of introduction to your work that you do?
Well, I'm a amateur filmmaker. I've studied cinema for my bachelor's degree, and I am studying cinema for my master's as well. I've made a few student films. I've made one or two short films. I worked as an AD. I worked as an audio recorder. Not a good one, but I worked as one. And fairly recently, actually, uh, not even a month ago, like a couple of weeks ago, I actually wrapped up production on my newest short film, which is the most ambitious work I've done so far. It's the most expensive and most ambitious work I've done so far. Uh, it's a horror movie as well, so that will become relevant later.
Could you tell us a little bit of a synopsis for it?
It tells the story of a family who lives in a old home which has a yard, and in that garden, I'm sorry, a yard garden, there is a monster, and that monster requires more and more control over the household. And the story is the father of that family who decides to give in to those requests that the monster keeps having.
Ooh, sounds kind of sounds kind of spooky there.
Well, hopefully, I mean it's not uh, thrilling. It is mostly just horror, like old-fashioned horror.
Old-fashioned horror is the best kind.
Yeah, I agree.
How long have you been interested in filmmaking?
To be honest, I can tell you the exact year. Since 2012. It's been 12 years. I was 15 years old. I watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Before that, I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a novelist. I watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and I was like, nope, I want to make those. I don't want to write anymore. I want to make those.
What about horror movies?
Um, to be honest, my introduction with horror movies came lot later. I think the first Hammer-esque movie I watched was Sleepy Hollow, Tim Burton's movie, which was my first introduction to old school horror as well. Before that, for me, horror meant like Final Destination or movies of that caliber, Saw and Final Destination. That was horror, and I wasn't very interested in them. After watching Sleepy Hollow, I got interested in, okay, this is weird. What is this movie? And I read up on it, and I realized that there's a connection. And I watched a lot of older horror movies, and I realized the bastion of horror movies isn't actually mainstream ones; it's B movies. It's where you get some of the best ones. And then I basically just started watching. I watched the old Universal movies, I watched the Hammer movies, I watched old slasher films. One of my favorite films of horror films of all time is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one. And so I just kept watching, and I became enamored with this world because horror to me is one of the best uses of cinema alongside Western and musicals. Like it's something incredibly cinematic about it. There is horror literature, but when you put it to pictures, like it's literally a picture can say 1,000 words. Like old uh, German expressionist movies, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari or Nosferatu. Eh, Nosferatu can do something that Bram Stoker's Dracula just can't, and it just show you the monster, and with just one frame, it does what 10 pages of writing can do. And I sort of became enamored with that. And I just kept watching. And I'm still watching to this day.
Ali, you live in Iran, and
Yes.
I'm curious, what were horror movies like easily accessible to you growing up? Are they popular over there?
Uh, to be honest, genre cinema in general isn't very popular in Iran. We don't have a what do you say, a coherent genre structure. Like the only thing that came close to genre movies in Iran was a genre called film farsi, which was popular before the revolution, and it was akin to melodramas, like Western melodramas. It usually had something to do with uh, old traditional values of the people. The people were usually lower class or mid to lower class, and their enemies usually was establishment or the upper class. Like that was and they usually have songs and dances in it as well. That's the closest I think Iranian cinema has come to a genre, a defined genre. But because of the structure of Iranian cinema, it's not a market, it's government sanctioned. Like all cultural products in Iran have to go through government channels. It's really stifled the creation of a genre. Horror movies in Iran, I don't think I've seen one that is worthy of mention. There have been a few, like the best one in my opinion, the best that came close to a horror is a movie by Hassan Fatih. It's called uh, the Postman Doesn't Knock Twice. It's a play on the the Postman Knocks Twice name. And oh, sorry, the Postman doesn't knock three times. Uh, and it's a it's not a good movie, but it does have like genre tropes in them. So growing up, horror movies for me what was popular among the teens in my country, which was again Final Destination and stuff like that. It's more of an underground thing than a established culture.
Okay. Now, um, we're gonna be talking about Hammer Studios and some of their movies. And for those who don't know, which if you're a fan of either Ali or myself, you probably do. But for those who may not know, uh, Hammer Studios is a film company based in the UK. They started up in the 50s, and their heyday was from the 50s through the 70s, but in recent times they've actually started back up again and have made some newer films. And Ali, for you, what is the appeal of Hammer movies?
The atmosphere, definitely the atmosphere. I love how dirty and grimy they look, especially in contrast to earlier horror movies. Like Universal is good, but Universal is polished. Like it looks so clean. Hammer is dirty. There isn't a pop of color other than the blood. And everything in it is just so, like, you can feel the musty air in it. Like, you can feel I'm sorry, there's another way, grossness of the situation in them. And I love that. I love the atmosphere. I love the shadow work. And I also love the craziness in some of them, like how easily Dracula is defeated like seven times.
Yeah, there's um in some of those movies he wasn't very tough to kill at all. I think one of
Yeah.
them see which one I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of sure, it's the one that did not have Peter Cushing in it. Is that Prince of Darkness?
Prince of Darkness is the third one, uh, which is, yeah, it didn't have Peter Cushing in it.
Okay, and instead of Peter Cushing, it was like this bearded monk guy who was kind of the hero. Is that the one I'm
Uh,
thinking of?
I, I, to be
It's this.
honest, it's either that or Scars of Dracula. I think my mind is drawn to on Scars of Dracula. I remember,
Okay.
tell me the way he's killed. That's easier to.
So I think he gets. It has something to do with water, like he gets thrown in water or something. Um, you know which one I'm talking about? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah. It's I think it's Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, okay.
Because,
Yeah,
oh
so
no, the one I was thinking wasn't Scars. It was Dracula Has Risen, which he gets struck by lightning.
okay.
Yeah, which is incredibly funny.
It's just yeah, I guess that goes with the myth or the legend that vampires can't cross running water, something to that effect.
Yeah, I think. To be honest, there's so many. Like I've seen enough vampire movies that the mythos in my head is scrambled to hell. Like the counting thing. Some mythos accept that, some outright reject it.
And before the show started, uh, Ali and I almost broke down into a massive argument, and that
Yeah.
is because uh, he had some very unkind words to say about Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, which happens to be one of my favorite movies. So, Ali, why don't you like this movie?
To be honest, I understand why it might be your favorite movie because it is fun. I am going to say it is incredibly fun to see. It's batshit crazy. It has martial arts in it. It has an aging Peter Cushing, clearly having no idea what's going on. Uh, the reason I hate it is because it's not horror, and I just want I. It feels weird, like when you put it next to Horror of Dracula, which is the first one, I think 1958 or 1959, and it doesn't seem to share the same universe, and I hate that. I want them to be one and it has martial arts. Why is there martial arts in a vampire? I mean, it's funny. I accept that. I didn't hate watching it. I just didn't like it.
Well, this for me, this movie was like a dream come true. It was a collaboration between uh, Hammer Studios and Shaw Brothers, and Shaw Brothers is, I guess, like the martial arts equivalent of Hammer. Their heyday too is I think from the either early '60s and the '70s, and they really popularized the martial arts genre. And so when I found out that these two studios collaborated, I was blown away. And granted, I'll give you, it's not, I wouldn't necessarily call it an excellent movie, but like you said, it's a lot of fun. Um,
It
and
is.
Peter
It is
Cushing's
very
in
fun.
it. Anything with
Yeah.
Peter Cushing's going to be good. Uh, and then on the other side, um, one of the top actors for Shaw Brothers, David Chang, is the
Mm.
protagonist in it. He was my favorite actor from over there. So for me, this movie was just full of awesome. There were a few things I would have changed, um, but no, I don't know how I feel about John Forbes Robertson as Dracula. I would have liked to see Christopher Lee in it, but I can understand why he
Yeah.
wouldn't want to be in it.
It's funny. Like I honestly, it's Hammer adjacent related. Uh, it's funny how much Christopher Lee hated Dracula as he went on, like how much he hated being associated with Dracula. You know the joke in I think it's the second Star Wars prequel, the Clone Wars, I think. When they put the Muppet of Yoda in front of him, they gave him Dracula teeth, and he's so mad. He's like, I didn't think you would do this to me. You weren't supposed to do this to me.
Oh, I'll have to check that out because I don't know if I noticed that in that movie. I
No,
didn't
no, no, no.
realize that he hated.
It's behind the scenes. It's a behind the
Ah,
scenes
okay,
feature. I
okay,
honestly, I really recommend it.
okay. I didn't realize that he hated Dracula.
Oh, he hated being associated with it. Like, he often thinks that, and I agree with that. He is a better actor than just Dracula. And so I think like for people my age, he's probably more Saruman or Count Dooku than Dracula. But he was the best Dracula. I don't know why he hated it that much. The first opportunity he got out of there. He's like, nope, I'm not making any more Draculas.
I mean, he did 7 of them, so it must not have been that bad.
I've seen an interview with him, and he talked about it in his book as well. He apparently got coerced into them. Like people would say, if you don't come, we have to cancel the movie. And if we cancel the movie, think of all those people you're putting out of a job. And he was like, okay, these are my friends. I'm gonna come. And by the seventh movie, he was like, I don't know any of these people. Okay, I don't care. Fire them.
Well, then we'll go from Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires to Ali. Why don't you tell us about some of your favorite Hammer movies?
My favorite one, like my top one, is The Devil Rides Out, which Christopher Lee is actually the protagonist in that one. The villain is Charles Gray. It's a devil worshipping movie. It has incredibly moralizing tones in it, which Trans Fisher, the director, was a staunch Christian, which is kind of funny when you think about like most horror directors are staunch Christians. I don't know why. uh, but it's incredibly. First of all, it's fun. Christopher Lee does a lot of like witchcraft stuff, and because there is an aura of mysticism and like devil worship to it, it feels a little bit more realistic than in their other movies. And because of that, it's also much dirtier. As I said, I love the atmosphere in Hammer movies, and The Devil Rides Out has the best one. The mansions, the uh, forest sets, like the devil in it, which is a weird guy that looks like a genie, and the goat guy that's in a scene. It's just all of these elements come together, and I don't know how to describe it, but it feels incredibly plausible. Like I feel like I know it's fiction. I'm not saying that it's real, but I can understand why some like it would be a local legend, you know? Like, oh, this thing happened like 500 years ago and people would be interested in it. It feels like they're retelling the folklore. And because of that, I really love it. I think it's the best movies. Aside from that, I like Horror of Dracula, the first Hammer Dracula movie. Uh, that I just love it. There is no reason for it. I love vampires. I love Dracula. I love Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. It has all of them beside the giant castle and Van Helsing fist fighting with Dracula. Who doesn't like that?
Yeah, Hammer made so outside of the 8 Dracula movies, Hammer also made several other vampire movies as well. There was the Vampire Lovers. I believe that one was starring Peter Cushing and Ingrid Pitt. I think some other vampire movies as well. Why do you think they made so many vampire movies but only one werewolf movie, which I thought was pretty good?
Oh yeah, it had Oliver Reed in it, right? The
Yeah.
werewolf movie. Yeah. To be honest, as someone who is a fan of vampires, I agree with that decision. I don't like werewolves that much. Um,
Okay.
yeah. You're gonna eject me from the interview right now, aren't you?
Oh no, no, no. That's okay. I
Uh,
understand.
Vampires are just first of all, I think vampires are easier to make. You have to understand Hammer movies were technically B movies. They didn't have a massive budget. So vampires are much more cost effective to make. All you need are fangs. Werewolves, you need a lot more makeup. You can I can be a vampire and all I need is just 2 fangs. But if I was to be a werewolf, I mean, I am a bearded Middle Eastern guy, so that would be actually easy to make me a werewolf. I'm incredibly hairy as it is, but if I wasn't, it would be very costly to make me hairy. uh, and also, I think vampires are just more human, you know. It's easier to create a vampire villain than it is to make a werewolf villain or a zombie villain or a Frankenstein's monster villain, because they made a bunch of Frankenstein movie as well. Uh, because vampires are humanoids. They can have human intentions, human emotions, human desires, and that makes them just more believable. That's why there is like a billion movies where vampires are actually the good guys, you know? That's why there is a comedy, a very prominent comedy in which vampires are just everyday people, which is what we do in the shadows. I love that movie, by the way. And
Yeah, and
I genuinely wish Christopher Lee could have been alive to be in this show. I think it would be very funny.
I've actually never seen it.
Oh, highly recommended.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
The show actually has a Persian vampire.
What about like I guess in mythology and stuff, are vampires very popular over in Iran?
Uh, I mean, right now, it's just as part of general pop culture, they are like Dan Shan books became were translated. Bram Stoker's Dracula is translated in Persian. Uh, like homegrown vampires, there are some like folklore monsters, especially in the southern parts of Iran, that do have vampiric trappings. You know, they drink blood basically. But aside from that, I think they're just part of the general culture. One of the funny things that I didn't know for quite a long time is that Hammer movies were actually kind of popular in Iran. Uh, One of my neighbors, who was an older gentleman, I was making a documentary about Christopher Lee, and I was printing a bunch of posters. I was making it for my university project. I was printing a bunch of Christopher Lee movie posters, and one of them was Horror of Dracula. And he saw it and said, "Oh, I saw that. I saw that in the cinema when it came out." I was like, "Did you like go outside of Iran?" No, no, no. It was in Iran. And Christopher Lee actually came to Iran in the 1970s once, and was on the cover of a magazine as and like one of Iran's pop stars at the time is next to him doing like this, making finger fangs. So I think in the 20th century and 21st, vampires are just part of general world culture, but homegrown ones, we just have vampire adjacent monsters. We don't have vampires specifically.
Have you seen the Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas? That's it. Have you watched that one?
Uh, Excuse me, can't say it again.
The Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas.
Oh, the Peter Cushing movie.
Yeah, yeah, that was one of the first
Yeah,
Hammer
yeah, yeah.
movies. Yeah, black and white.
Yeah. I've
That's
seen it.
that's another one of my
That's
favorites.
Oh, I understand. That's a beautifully shot movie, like incredibly pretty for its time, especially. Like, I genuinely, when I was watching it, I was jealous. I was like, oh, I want to make that. It's
And
clearly a studio, but goddamn, they made a good use of that.
yeah, and I like to think it's an accurate representation of what Bigfoot would actually be like, you know?
Maybe yeah, I can see why. It had a feeling, and I think it's because it might be a conspiracy theory by me, but it might be the truth. I think it's the same set they used for Doctor Who. Doctor Who has a like the 60s Doctor Who has an episode which is the introduction of the Great Intelligence, I think, which is in snow caves. It looks very similar to that. So it has a nostalgic feeling to me. When I was watching the Abominable Snowman, I watched Doctor Who after that. I was like, oh, this feels cozy. Like I've been here before.
Yeah, that was a very fun movie, and I like the kind of dynamic with the monks, you know, how they're like kind of like protecting the Abominable Snowman in a way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it was more subtle, but I like that. Um, I
Another one of Hammer movies, by the way, you just said monks. It kind of came into my head. I actually like the two female-oriented ones, She and the Gorgon. I think those are the ones that don't get talked about a lot, and they are incredibly well made as well. Especially the Gorgon. The Gorgon has quite good visual effects for a Hammer movie.
those are two I have yet to see also.
Oh,
I'm
highly
I'm definitely
recommended. Highly,
yeah
highly.
I'm familiar with them, but I just haven't seen them. Um, what's the plot of She exactly?
Uh, it's a old mountain cult, like they're in a cave system, and they all kind of have this woman as their god king. And our protagonist, which is Christopher, no, not Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing. So Christopher Lee is the high monk of the cult of She. They stumble on it, and it's sort of like she has mystical powers, and these people do whatever she tells them to do.
Okay, and
It's
she's a vampire?
it's a little no, no, it's not a vampire. It's just
Oh, okay,
mystical.
okay.
No
But I
explanation.
I have watched the 1980s version of She, and that's
Oh,
a wild movie.
yeah. It is not as wild as that because it's a 1950s movie made by British conservatives. It's not gonna be as wild, but it is pretty good. Like Christopher Lee is the villain's lackey in that, which I mean, he was good in everything. I really love that man.
Yeah, I don't think is such a thing as a bad Christopher Lee movie. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong. You've probably seen more than I have.
I mean, there are bad movies which Christopher Lee is a part of, but he is good in those bad movies as well.
Yeah, or maybe I should phrase it as, uh, there's no such thing as a Christopher Lee movie that's not entertaining. I think that'd
That
be a
that
better
is
way of
actually
putting
true. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
it.
Fairly recently, I watched Raw Meat, which was very good. Um, it had Donald Pleasance in it and Christopher Lee.
What was that one about?
Cannibalism.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's a B movie from I think 1970s, and it has all the things you expect from a B movie from 1970s exploitation movie, but incredibly fun. Highly recommended.
Okay. Um, Donald Pleasance, most famous for his uh, role as Dr. Loomis in the Halloween movies. Sometimes it's
Oh
easy to
yeah,
forget that he was in other movies as well.
yeah. I mean, to be honest, to me, he was always Blofeld. Like before everything else, he was Blofeld from the Sean Connery era of James Bond.
Okay. I didn't know he was in Bond movies.
Yeah, yeah, he was Blofeld. The scar and the uh, I think he is the literal inspiration behind Doctor Evil. You know, the Austin Powers.
Oh, okay.
Like his version specifically. He was really good as Blofeld as well. Like I know I promise to you I'm 27, even though I sound like a boomer. But I really love Sean Connery's James Bond as well. So I watch them quite a lot.
Do you have a favorite movie director?
Sergio Leone. He's, in my opinion, the best movie director of all time.
Okay. A big fan of westerns?
Oh, I am. I love spaghetti westerns a lot. I think it's my favorite genre, and spaghetti in particular. Like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is my favorite movie of all time. I love Once Upon a Time in the West. Uh, all of Sergio Leone movies. I like Django and Django Unchained, both of them. Uh, I love quite a lot of Sergio Corbucci. The Great Silence is a masterpiece in my opinion, and even goofy westerns like My Name is Nobody or They Call Me Trinity, there is just something about them. Even if they're idiotic and stupid and bad, they still look amazing. That's the greatest thing about westerns. They always look. I'm sorry, can I curse?
I'll let you do one curse word.
They're fucking fantastic.
Good, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's a very good movie. I like that. Um, are you? Do you know of any like Western horror movies? I guess like a mashup of the two genres.
Like there is obviously the one that comes to head is Jonah Hex, kind of, which was a really bad movie. The Josh Brolin movie. It's not even that fun to see sometimes. It's like, oh my God, it's boring. And there are a few that I actually like. For all of its worst qualities, and it is a bad movie, don't get me wrong, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I actually like that movie quite a lot. I watched it a dozen times. And I think it's fun. It's a fun, it's weird and fun, and it's Western, and it has vampires in it, and it's just funny. Then Western horror movies. Like there are Western movies that have elements that are close to like psychological horror. There is Brimstone, which has Guy Pearce in it. Uh, there is. I'm trying to think of some. It's weird. I have a Western musical up there, but I don't have a Western horror movie up there.
One of my favorite ones, although I guess you wouldn't really, it's not necessarily considered a horror movie, maybe more of a fantasy movie, would be Valley of the Gwangi.
Oh,
That
yeah.
that's the one where the cowboys find the valley with the dinosaurs in it.
Yeah.
That's a fun movie.
Yeah, that's a really fun movie. It's not really a horror though. It's like more. It's
No,
the same vein
more
as King
fantasy, I
Kong.
guess.
Yeah. It's Harry. I forgot his last name. The guy who made the stop motion dinosaurs. It was one
Oh,
of
Ray
his
Harryhausen.
Ray Harryhausen. Yes, thank you. He. It was. I think he did a great job in that movie. It's one of his best. Valley of the Gwangi is so good. I'm trying to think of horror Western movies. I am coming up with like blanks.
Okay.
There's Solomon Kane. Solomon Kane a Western though?
Um,
I think so. He wears a cowboy hat-esque thing, but
it's I think I've seen that, but it was a long time ago. I don't really remember it.
I don't recommend rewatching it. I did it like
Okay.
5 years ago. It's really bad.
There's a horror movie that I've heard a lot about. I haven't seen it yet. It's called Bone Tomahawk. That's a horror western I've heard a lot of good things about.
I haven't seen that. I also heard a lot of good things about it. I haven't seen that yet though. It's on my watch
Okay.
list, but just have to sit down and watch it.
All right, well, how about
And it,
musicals? I know you like musicals.
yeah. I mean, my favorite musical of all time is Singing in the Rain, uh, which is a whole other, like, Golden Age musicals are a whole other can of worms. I'm not going to open, but I love that. I love Fiddler on the Roof. I think it's one of the best adaptations of a musical. Uh, my favorite musical of all time, which has an incredibly bad movie adaptation of, is Man of La Mancha. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
No, not familiar.
Uh,
What's that one
I
about?
read it's Don Quixote. It's the story is Miguel de Cervantes goes inside the Spanish Inquisition prison and tells the story with the prisoner of Don Quixote, and it's a it's a musical about hope and dreams and all of that good stuff. And Man of La Mancha is fantastic. I think it's my favorite musical of all time, but the movie adaptation of it is so bad. Mostly because casting Sophia Loren, who cannot sing, to sing is a mistake. And Peter O'Toole is in it, which is good. Peter O'Toole is a good actor, but they make him the makeup on his face when he's actually Don Quixote is really bad, and it's just not a good movie. It's like we are in the age of remakes. Let's remake this one. This one actually needs a remake. Let's have Antonio Banderas in it, because I can't think of any other Spanish actors who can sing.
uh, one of my favorites, Wizard of Oz. It's a classic, and watching that as a kid, that witch was scary.
Yeah, the Wicked. Actually, Wicked is coming out pretty soon, which is the story of the Wicked Witch of the West from the perspective of the Wicked Witch of the West. It's actually, that's a good musical as well. Like, Defying Gravity is one of the best songs from recent musicals. But yeah, Wizard of Oz. Okay, I know I'm gonna say it, and feel free to cut it out if it's too insensitive. But when you have to be in this region to understand why I did that. When Henry Kissinger died, I actually post the story with "Ding Dong, the witch is dead."
Yeah, I know he wasn't the most popular person.
Yeah, especially in the Middle East. Like, I'm living in the consequences of his actions.
Yeah, we don't often hear a lot about what goes on over in Iran unless there's like some kind of conflict or something major pops up in the news. So other than that, we don't hear too much over here in the States. So no, I'm not gonna fault you for that opinion at all. It's have you seen Repo the Genetic Opera?
I have but I'm gonna be honest, I didn't like it because I watched it because of the Devil's Carnival. I watched Devil's Carnival first, and then I watched Repo. I think Devil's Carnival is better, in my opinion. Repo is good. Like, Repo is not a bad musical, but Devil's Carnival just has better songs, especially Alleluia, the Devil's Carnival.
What's Devil's Carnival about? And I haven't heard that one.
Oh, it's literally a guy. There's a short movie, and then there is the longer one. It was supposed to be a trilogy. It probably won't be because Paul Sorvino is in it, and Paul Sorvino sadly recently passed away. He plays God, and the Devil's Carnival is three people who go to hell and kind of like get into trials, like weird trials. And Alleluia, the Devil's Carnival is actually talking about heaven and like how heaven works and all of that. And it's a good musical. It's incredibly stylistic, like very stylistic. I think the same is true for Repo the Genetic Opera. That is also incredibly stylistic as well.
I like Repo a lot. I'm not like a real big fan of musicals, but I did enjoy that one. It's kind of quirky and fun. I don't know of any other horror musicals. Well, I take that back. There was one I saw in the 90s called Cannibal the Musical, which that one was.
Yeah, it's from the South Park guys. Yeah. That is actually very funny. But I mean, the biggest horror, quote unquote, horror musical is Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I love to death. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, if I have to say. And just because Tim Curry in that movie, just singing Sweet Transvestite and blowing muscle.
That's one movie I'm surprised that they haven't tried to remake yet. But I don't think they could replicate it at all.
They made a TV special once, which Tim Curry was in it. He played the narrator, the one who Charles Gray played in the original movie. was it Charles Gray? I think so. The guy who now jump to the left, and a step to the right. Put your hands on your hips. He played that guy. It was good. Laverne Cox played Dr. Frankenfurter, and it's good. Like the sound quality was better, but the whole idea of Rocky Horror Picture Show is supposed to be a bad movie. It's supposed to be a B movie, and so it wasn't that bad. It was very polished, and I don't like that. I like gritty mistakes. Like I want to see all the mistakes the filmmakers made. That's one of the reasons. It's a rant. I'm sorry about that. That's one of the reasons I didn't like the new Indiana Jones movie. It didn't look dirty.
I haven't seen the new one. For that matter, I actually haven't seen the Crystal Skull one either. Uh, the original
I
trilogy
mean,
is great.
yeah. I suggest just not watching those two. Like, just keep the memory of the original trilogy in your head. Like the last time we saw Indy, he saved his dad, and then we were off. Then it's over.
Yeah, it was a good way to end it.
Yeah. Uh, the new one just didn't look dirty, and I hated that because out of the one of the reasons, again, to bring it back to Hammer, I love a Hammer is that I know it's a movie. Like you can't fool us anymore. We can't suspend our disbelief that much, but you can see like, okay, somebody put that there. The cobweb is fake, but somebody thought, oh, this place needs cobwebs because it's old. The metal chandeliers, the metal candle holders that Van Helsing uses to make a cross and kill Dracula with. You're like, these are very deliberate. These are very movie-like. Yeah, but there is something in them. They're not perfect. Like those metal chandeliers and those metal candlestick holders, they're not perfect. They're incredibly boring looking, but they become good because they're in that space. They have a physical space. The same is true for the blood. Like the hammer blood is very famous because it's very bright, and it's because it was cheaper to make it that way. Like it's not a stylistic choice; it's an economic choice. But because it's in that space, because it is a mistake, because there is something behind it, it becomes a stylistic choice. And years later, Tim Burton tells to his prop person, I want to make my blood look like that. Martin Scorsese says it to his prop person, I want my blood to look like that. Like in The Gangs of New York, the blood is incredibly hammer-like. No blood is that red and that bright.
One thing I was thinking about Hammer movies is, like I've noticed this in a few of the movies. Sometimes you have like, um, it's kind of random stuff that happens that doesn't get fully explained. Like for example, the one that comes to mind is the Brides of Dracula. In the beginning of that
Oh
movie,
yeah,
we
yeah.
have that man in black who kind of sabotages the carriage and like sets up the meeting at the tavern. Uh, we have, and that's all we know about him. He doesn't show up again in the whole movie. It's like,
Yeah.
who was he? You know?
Yeah, it tells us, I think, something about how storytelling has evolved. Nowadays, you can't do that because, but back then it was like, yeah, random evil guy, just is there. He looks evil. Let's go along with it.
Yeah, and which by the way, I forgot Christopher Lee is not in that one either. So I guess he was only in
Yeah,
six Dracula movies. Yeah, then that one,
yeah. That one only has Peter Cushing in it.
and the the vampire in that one, that was Baron Meinster. He wasn't even Dracula.
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, The Rise of Dracula is a weird movie. It was literally like made the next day after the Horror of Dracula wrapped filming, and it's
I
weird.
Yeah, it's good though.
Yeah, it is good. It's not bad. It's actually one of the more interesting one. Like out of all of the Dracula movies they made, uh, Brides is definitely one that I recommend seeing. Aside from like Horror of Dracula, which is the original one, I suggest watching Bride and then maybe Dracula Has Risen from the Grave to see the craziness. And Bride is actually a good movie, like genuinely a good movie, not the fun B movie way that, like, I don't know, Dracula AD is 1970, the one that was made in 1970. That one is just funny because, oh my God, they made Dracula modern. But Rise of Dracula is genuinely a good movie, I think.
Yeah, and it has something that I don't recall there being in any of the other Dracula movies, and it has a little bit of a comedy relief in it.
Oh yeah,
If you
yeah,
recall, there's that Peter Cushing. He's staying at that tavern, and he meets that like physician guy there, who's a
yeah,
bit of a dunderhead, I guess.
yeah. I it's it's a as I said, it's a weird movie. It's like they tried so many stuff, and when they failed, they were like, nope, bring Christopher Lee back. We're remaking, we're making Dracula movies with the formula again.
Yeah, and Brides is also another one where the ending, I'm not really sold on the ending. Um, I think
Yeah,
he
I can
kills the
understand.
vampire with like a shadow of a windmill. Like he turns it into a cross or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I'm not gonna argue with you. It is incredibly stupid. Most of them are. Most of the Dracula movies have very bad endings, including Horror of Dracula. Like literally, he makes a cross with two candlestick holders, and then Sun kills Dracula. Which, by the way, I'm gonna go on a little rant. That shouldn't happen. Dracula is a daywalker. Like literally in the Bram Stoker novel, he can walk in day.
well, um, yeah, I don't know. I've got nothing to say. I got no defense for that.
It's weird that when you look at all of the Dracula movies with the name Dracula on them, including Nosferatu, I'm counting that as a Dracula movie, in a lot of them, Dracula dies by sunlight. And it's like, you guys either just didn't care or thought that this is a good enough explanation, or you didn't read that part where Dracula walks in daylight. Yet I know it's. I mean, even in Batman versus Dracula, Dracula is dead by sunlight, by artificial sunlight.
One of my favorite vampire movies, Dracula Dead and Loving It, starring Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah.
It's That's a classic. Love that movie.
Yeah. Mel Brooks's parody of the Universal movie. Leslie Nielsen, man, he was such a great actor. I
Yeah.
actually fairly recently, like in the last couple of years, I for the first time I watched the Police Squad, and I'm hooked. Like I quote it all the time, and it's only 6 episodes. How is 6 episodes this funny?
Is that what they based the Naked Gun movies off of?
Yeah. It's that.
Okay. Those are pretty good too.
Yeah. He's so good, Leslie Nielsen.
I was just gonna switch gears entirely here and ask you if you're much of a gamer.
I am. I can be considered a gamer, but I can be considered a casual gamer. I'm not a hardcore one.
Okay.
Uh, like for the like right now, the last game I've played is Townscaper.
Hmm. Don't know that one.
Casual, relaxing game. You just make stuff in it, like buildings. That's it.
Okay. Um, is gaming very popular in your end?
It is. It's actually even before the advent of internet and like right now it is literally the same in Iran as it's anywhere else. except a lot more limitations because our government sanctions not sanctions, our government restricts the internet access for a lot of services, and then we get sanctions from outside of Iran, which uh, limits our internet speed and stuff like that. So aside from that, it is literally in Iran right now. It's the same as anywhere else. I have friends who literally have played games on day one in Iran, and I myself like retro gamers. My favorite games are like Fallout New Vegas, Age of Mythology, and stuff like that. So I'm an old gamer. I
Okay.
swear to God, I'm a young person. I just feel very old. uh,
It's
but even before that, they were like game clubs. Like you would go to a game and you play like CS:GO or FIFA or stuff like that.
okay.
They used to be called game nets.
Okay. Cool. You mentioned Age of Mythology. That's a good one. That's one of my favorites.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah. As far as like games and horror movies being um I guess like somewhat limited in Iran as far as like what's allowed over there. Uh, in your lifetime, has anything changed with that? Like, have they eased up on it at all, or has it been pretty much the same as far as you've been alive?
Uh, Honestly, not to get too specific in the intricacies of it, each president changes stuff, as is the
Okay.
same in any other country. But in general, the only thing that has changed is that because of internet, it's gotten easier for an underground movement and communities to grow. What has changed is that I found people in Iran who are like me and like, for example, like Hammer movies or like musicals or like westerns, but nothing in the general like attitude from the government that has changed. Not much. Still, games are seen as implements of the foreign country. Still, movies are seen as cultural products that need to be fought over. And it's still like that. I just found my people throughout the internet. Internet is a fantastic invention in that regard. I mean, I am in Iran, you are in the US, and we're talking because of that. Because of internet, I managed to find people like you who like Hammer horror movies, such a specific thing.
Yes, yes, and I'm glad you did find me because this has been a fun conversation.
Yeah,
Ali,
same.
you have a YouTube channel, AK88 Studios, is that correct?
Yes, yes, that is correct. Uh, I have to explain it a little bit. 88 isn't the year I was born. AK is my first and is my initials, Ali Khamseh. But 88 is the year I made my email, but not 1988, 1388. Because in Iran, we have our own calendar. We actually, literally, in the next couple of days, we're going to be entering the year 1403. So I made my email in the year 88 and I just put that in there. And ever since then, it has been my identity in the online world.
And can people go to that channel and look at some of the film projects you've done?
Sadly, it's not in that channel. A lot of film projects I've made is on another channel, but you can find links to that. In AK88 Studios, I have made original content. I've made video essays. There's actually, if you're interested in Iranian like sociology and movies, I've made a video which came out a couple of years ago about a movie that on the poster has no name for the director, producer, or writer. Like it's a movie made by no one, apparently, if you go by the opening credits and the poster. And I actually explain a lot of Iran's historical background in that too. So if you're interested in that, there is stuff on that. And I actually made uh, speaking of musicals and horror, I actually made a video about Sweeney Todd. Uh, and I argue that it is a comedy, and it should have been a comedy at all times.
I've heard that like the actual Sweeney Todd play varies quite a bit from the movie.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
okay, I've only watched the movie. I'm not familiar with the play at all.
I actually incredibly recommend the 1982 recording of Sweeney Todd, the musical, which is George Hearn and the late great Angela Lansbury. It was filmed in LA by the guy who directed the Golden Girls TV show. Uh, and it's a recording of a play, and it's really good. I highly, highly recommend it. I feel like literally after this interview is over, go ahead and watch it because it's really good.
Yeah, you mentioned Angela Lansbury. First thing I think of is Murder, She Wrote. I used to watch that all the time with my grandma. That was fun.
Yeah, Angela Lansbury was such a great like artist. She was a great actress. She was a great singer. It's funny that she was Mrs. Potts and Mrs. Lovett, two very weird and opposite characters.
Oh, Ali, so we mentioned the YouTube channel, AK88 Studios. Are you on any social media sites that you want to shout out?
I mean, if you go to that YouTube channel, you will find links to my other social medias. I am
Okay.
on Instagram, I am on Letterboxd, and these are my two most active social media. I'm no longer, I've retired my X account. I am not a fan of that site, but I am on Instagram and I am on Letterboxd. You can actually, if you go to Letterboxd, I have a compulsion because I have OCD to write reviews for everything I watch. So every movie I've entered in there has a review on it.
I'm gonna have to go check out your review of Legend of the Golden Vampires.
It's not on there yet because I
Oh, okay.
opened my account in 2019 and I haven't rewatched The Legend of the Golden Vampire since then, but I will definitely watch it pretty soon because I have an idea in my head for a Dracula project and I want to watch all of the Dracula movies again.
All right, very good. Ali, any closing words you'd like to mention?
Well, I just want to say it because I I I don't know if you agree with me or not. Older movies tend to get left behind, especially ones that are not classics in the sense that, they get talked about a lot, but I feel like Hammer movies in particular have been incredibly influential. I've said a couple of names. I said Tim Burton and Martin Scorsese. You can see the influences of Hammer movies in, like, Burton is literally a Hammer prodigy. Guillermo del Toro is literally a Hammer prodigy. These movies do have influences, and going back to watching them, there is something of value to be learned there. Uh, they influence the whole array of filmmakers, and they will influence the whole array of filmmakers going forward. So just give them a chance. I know these are old movies that you may not want to go and watch, but as I'm sure Dan also agrees with me that if you do that, you will get something incredibly unique that you will not get anywhere else.
I would agree with that 100%. There's nothing quite like those older movies, from the
Yeah,
atmosphere of the Hammer movies to, the excellent special effects of Ray Harryhausen. I'll take that over CGI any day of the week. It's
yeah,
it's
same.
stuff that's unfortunately is in the past now, and those methods aren't used quite so much. Um, but at least we can always go back and watch those old classics because they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. I
All
completely
right,
agree with you.
Ali, it's been a lot of fun, and thanks for coming on and chatting with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me and thank you for talking to me and listening to me. It's been a fantastic, fantastic experience.
Yes, absolutely, and thank you to those who are listening out there. If you want to connect with me online, you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Just search for A Happy Moment Podcast. And I will talk to you guys next time. Take care, everybody.